evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think choneberry is a flavor from Captain Crunch. Now, honestly, I don't eat Captain Crunch, so I don't really know, but they've had some weird flavors over the years. There might be a choneberry, who knows? But the choneberry, and I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that quite correctly, that we're going to talk about is a team in Thai League One. They're currently the team that Chris Cortez, former Phoenix Rising legendary striker and all-time leading scorer, is currently under contract with in Thailand. He, of course, is on loan right now to Ayutthaya United in the Thai League 2 or T2 League right now. We're going to sit down and actually talk to him about how things are going over in Thailand, some of the interesting teams he's played against, some of the differences in customs between the leagues over here versus over there. It's a really interesting conversation, and I think that you're really going to enjoy it. If you haven't had a chance to yet, we did also put together a introduction to the Thai League blog post that will give you a little bit of information and introduce you to some of the teams, including Chonburi and some of the other really big teams over there, like Berry Ram United, who is a 7-time champion over there. So if you haven't had a chance to read that yet, it may be worth taking a look at before you listen to the interview, just so you do get a little bit of background on the Thai League. My name is Phil Kennedy, and my co-host, my brother from down under, Arran Ayres, will be joining me again shortly. Matt Robards was unable to make it tonight, but will be joining us again on our next regular recording next week. Let's welcome Arran and special guest Chris Cortez back to the show, and let's talk some Thai League football. Good evening. It's Wednesday evening here in the United States, and it is Thursday morning over in Thailand, where our special guest Chris Cortez is joining us here from. Welcome to the show, and thank you again for coming back on Across the Pitch. How you doing tonight, Chris?
Oh, doing all right. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here again.
It's great to have you back on the show. We're really excited to get some inside information from you about yourself, the Thai League, because, it's a little bit hard to find much outside of scores and standings over here.
Yeah, it's different.
One of the things that we've been doing on our website actually is a little bit of an introduction to different leagues around the world. We've done some articles on like the Russian League and the Scottish League, and along with this interview, we're actually going to come out with a little article kind of introducing folks to the Thai League, and we're excited to get an inside look at it. Like Arran said, outside of the scores and the standings, there's really not much to find over here. When we did talk to you the last time, you hadn't had a regular season match yet. Now you, of course, are well into the season. So tell us to start off with, what are some of the biggest differences in the match day experience in Thailand versus over here? What are some of the big differences?
All right. Well, to start off, the only way you'll find highlights is if you actually can type in Thai, which is pretty much impossible. So that's how I have to find it. Yeah, I have Thai players. I have to turn on my Thai keyboard or have them forward me a link to something in order to find it because it's so hard. As far as match day experience and everything like that goes, I would say in general it's about the same. The day of thing and how your preparation goes, everyone kind of has their own way of preparation, and for the most part I'm able to do basically the same kind of things. Game day, get up in the morning, chill, make my breakfast, have like a pregame meal, and then we'll get in, have a team meeting, this is for like home games obviously, and be able to have a team meeting and kind of go over some video, go over set pieces, standard kind of stuff, a few things he wants to do, lineups, all that kind of stuff, and then afterwards check in, and then same thing, referees will come in, check jerseys, have a bit of a talk in that, and then after that it'll just be like warm up, get out there, and then they do The only difference I would say is, instead of having the American national anthem, you're kind of listening to a Thai national anthem with a montage of the King of Thailand.
Right.
Kind of honoring the King of Thailand. And so that's like kind of I would say that's a one real big difference is you get to see, especially when you're going away, everyone has their own kind of little video clips and video montage of just kind of honoring the King and stuff. So it's kind of interesting to watch. It's kind of cool. Aside from that, the other difference is kind of before and especially after matches. But before matches, you do you kind of will go you'll go to your section of fans and kind of be like they'll kind of like give you a bit of a cheer or something, and you always do that kind of before going on and starting a game.
Oh, interesting.
And then so it'll be like a bit of a thank you, and they'll kind of start singing a song. And then after the matches, it's pretty interesting. So what you do is all the 11 players, you just come off the pitch. What they'll do is they'll line up, do like a handshake with the other team afterwards. Kind of line up as if we would when you first start out, alongside the referees. And then afterwards, you'll go up, and it's kind of like so culturally, like to say like hello and things like that, you kind of put your hands together almost in like a praying motion, and then you like bow, and that's just like instead of a handshake, that's kind of what you do. And so what you'll do is you'll do that and kind of say a thank you to the opposing team's coach after the match.
Big deal of respect there, I see.
It's a huge kind of respect, like cultural thing. So you'll do that, and then afterwards you'll go up to whatever it is, whether it's home or away, you'll go up to the opposition's fans first and do the same thing, kind of do a bit of a thank you. And then while you're doing that, they'll actually start cheering your team's name, and then like vice versa.
Really?
Oh,
yeah. Wow. So they'll kind of do a bit of a chant for like your team, and then the other, like our fans will do a chant for like the away team, and then afterwards you'll go in front of your fans and kind of give an applause and a thank you and all that.
This sounds like some sort of FIFA dreamland. Are you sure this
is? Yeah, I know. I was very surprised by the whole. They were kind of calling me over after. I was like, "Where are we going right now?" Yeah, so it was pretty interesting to kind of see that pan out, because the first time I went and watched a match before I'd been registered with this club, and I didn't really pay attention a ton to what was going on. Because like after the match finished, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna kind of walk down, congratulate the players, blah blah, and I wasn't really like noticing it. And then afterwards, when I did, I was like, where are we going now? I was like, I'm just gonna follow you guys, and you guys just tell me what to do. I don't really know what's going on. So yeah, but it was pretty interesting to have this whole ordeal. It's interesting, just kind of like cultural custom, and it's just everywhere you go they do that. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it sounds different, but I really like the idea of that respecting the opposition, and it sounds like a really interesting kind of thing. Yeah. Definitely wouldn't see Arran doing any Tottenham chants before they play Arsenal.
I'd give him a salute or two, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I think it's just one of those things. I mean, I've always kind of been one of those players, and I think most guys are, where it's like, right, yeah, as soon as the match is over, it's like, you leave everything on the pitch and like, all right, said and done, and that's that kind of thing. And so I think it kind of like, that's a big emphasis of that also.
Should be more of it. I like that.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest standout for me. Aside from that, standard and everything else.
So, Chris, as you've travelled around to different venues throughout the league, imagine you've probably been to some really interesting venues and towns. Is the weather really stuck out to you for some reason, and why?
Yeah, honestly, I've been to a couple really like phenomenal stadiums. There have been some really good ones. There's one for actually our last match we had was a week ago, a bit over a week. It was last Wednesday for me, so just a bit over a week ago. We played. It was called they're called Bangkok Glass, which is like kind of the company that owns them.
Okay.
And so they just call them like BG, and then it's BG Pathum for short, just kind of their nickname. So they just call them Bangkok Glass. So that's kind of like the known name of theirs. And their stadium and their setup and everything is absolutely phenomenal, and it's got a massive like stadium, and they had a really good turnout of fans and everything. And it was just, considering it was a Wednesday at around, I think it was 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., like 6 or 7 p.m. kickoff on a Wednesday, you don't expect to get a amazing turnout, and you're not always really expecting that. But yeah, I mean, the whole experience with the stadium and the pitch and just the atmosphere and everything was really, really fun. And it was a tough game because we had literally a month of Wednesday, Saturday games, so we had about 7 matches in a month, including cup games and extra time and penalties at one point midweek. And so it was the end of a very long month, but it was not a bad place to end your month of grind of matches.
Right. Yeah.
They're the big capital too, so I'm sure there was some stuff to do after the game.
yeah, and then the thing was too, it's close enough. It was only about 40-minute drive from where we are. And so it was cool because we got a really good amount of fans of ours to be able to come out to the match as well. And so I think it kind of made it just that much better of an atmosphere, much more fun to play. And, I mean, they're a team that is still unbeaten in the league, and we're getting close to finishing up the entire first leg and like the first round of league games and stuff. And so to finish pretty much the halfway point of the season unbeaten they're a very good team.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. So, all right, you've spoken a little bit about the most impressive. What's the most unusual?
Let's see. We had one match where like we were playing and like there was just a giant mud patch in the center circle and in each box. It was like dirt, and then it started raining, of course, just before kickoff, and it was pouring rain, and it just turned into a big mud patch. And then there are also like some puddles and stuff. Like just overall, the state of the pitch was pretty bad.
Yeah,
and so that was one like. And then another one was we were supposed to play in Chiang Mai, which is in the north, and it's very known for like a lot of people like to go there to see like the elephant sanctuaries and things like that.
Right.
And so we were supposed to play them towards the beginning of the year, probably the first month of games. And actually, because of the air quality, the game got rescheduled like 3 different times, and we didn't play them until about a week ago.
Oh my! The air quality. Wow. Okay. Yeah, well.
Yeah, so it was like
that's
it was
probably
at
why you
one
had
point,
so many the 7 games in 3 weeks is because you had that extra one added in and the
it was
cup.
like that was added in, and then a cup match, and so it turned into a perfect storm, so to say.
That's quite amazing.
That was crazy. It was actually like at one point it was the worst air quality in the entire world. It was pretty,
yeah.
Wow. Is this because of fires, or are we just talking general pollution?
Because it was mostly the dry season at the time. The rainy season starts probably in the next month. They basically have 2 seasons. It's raining or it's not raining. So it was a combination of it had been a pretty long dry season, and on top of that it was like some fires, and then obviously just the accountability as far as like when it comes to cars and things like that, and like they don't really have like smog checks and stuff.
Sure, gotcha.
So I think a combination of all those things, and they had a couple like fires, and then on top of it, they tend to use that for like farmland, to like clear out farmland when they want to do the next one, and it's kind of like burn out some farmland and stuff, which incidentally is good for the soil, but they do it on too massive of a scale too quickly. And when it's a place like Chiang Mai that's like it's very like surrounded by mountains and things like that, so everything tends to kind of sit in, and so unless it rains, all that air just sits there and creates all these issues. So
I've spent a bit of time there. I was in Malaysia on the waterfront, and it was amazing to see the sun actually set before it hit the horizon. The air was that thick.
I've seen that in Bangkok before also.
It's something else, man. I tell you.
We've asked you a little bit about the kind of experience of Thailand itself and the match day experience, but now in terms of the game itself, I would imagine that one of the biggest things that you probably run into is a difference in the way the game is officiated, and I guess most specifically the language barrier. Are there games that you've played in where the officials only speak Thai, or do the referees generally speak English too?
I think for the most part, like they speak, like most part in my experience when I've spoken to them, they at least speak enough English to be able to kind of communicate what's going on. I think if you're unhappy with them, they speak less English. I think it depends how you approach them. Yeah, it depends how you approach them, how much they want to understand what you're saying. I think referees have selective hearing in general, though. To be fair, so
I think you're probably
can't
right.
blame them always.
That's how the red cards and yellow cards actually got started. Is because soccer is such an international game that if the referees didn't speak the language, they could give you a red card or a yellow card, and everybody knew what that meant. So
yeah,
right. Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah,
you need something universal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. So, no, it's okay though. It's a bit difficult, and you have to know there are certain words and certain phrases that are very common in English that most people know. So when you're here long enough, you tend to pick up that okay, I need to like find a way to speak to them using certain very common phrases in broken English that they'll pick up kind of what you're saying, even if they don't speak a ton of English.
Okay.
So that's like one thing I've kind of learned is how to speak English to Thai people on top of like mixing my crappy Thai in there with it.
We were going to ask you about that if you've picked up a few words.
Yeah, no, I'm slowly coming along. It's a tough language. Basically, you can say the same word and raise your tone of voice and have a higher tone of voice in certain parts of the words, and it can mean 3-4 different things.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow.
You're right.
Yeah, so yeah, you can say the same word for number 9 can also mean rice based on how you say it.
Okay. Nice.
It's pretty crazy. So, I think they obviously kind of pick up the context a bit and realize what you're trying to say based on, the situation, everything. For the most part, people can kind of deduce that. But yeah, it's not easy. I've gotten numbers down. I've gotten down like telling time, working on days of the week, like basic kind of things that can kind of help with at least like schedule and things like that. Obviously, like in terms of like terms of actually playing, you can do like left, right, or like to go, or like come back, or quickly, or like man on, things like that. So stuff like that it's pretty easy to pick up because you see it, you hear it all the time, every day, and during training and everything.
Right,
Aside from that, I'm trying to learn other basic things to be able to get through everyday life.
Had that circumstance where you learn a question, for example, like how much something is, and they respond in the native language. You're like, I don't know why I bothered learning that question because I don't know the answer.
Yeah, that was the important thing was, every time it's happened to me a couple of times where like I'll say certain things, and like even some of the guys on the team have told me like, yeah, you actually like enunciate things really well and things. And then I've had moments where I'll like say things and then they'll just respond to me in full sentences in time, just like, oh man, no, I don't know that much. It's like, oh man, I'm killing myself with having good pronunciation. I should have crappier pronunciation. And then they'll at least know like, okay, yeah, this guy's struggling. I'm just gonna take the fact that he told me this and be happy with it.
That's awesome.
So what's the Thai word for goal?
Oh, that's universal, luckily.
Oh, really?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that one's easy. So
I'm assuming football is as well.
Yeah, they actually, so ball, you say like bon, like B-A-H-N, I guess you could say, or B-O-N, however you'd want to spell it. It doesn't matter because the writing in Thai is crazy, so it's totally different. But so yeah, instead of so they'll say for handball and like football, they'll say football or like handball.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so luckily that one's close enough where I picked that one.
So how accessible is the scouting information on other teams? I know you touched on a bit earlier that you have to kind of use the Thai keyboard to look up the videos and stuff like that. Do you get a lot of game film on your opponents? And do you guys have like a scouting department? Or?
Yeah, no. Well, basically our assistant coach is kind of in charge of the way they're done. Every kind of team has their own way of doing it, but the way our coach does it is our coach will kind of show us some videos of a few attacking plays, a few defensive plays, and a few set pieces of each team and kind of their tendencies and things like that. And so, yeah, he either has clips that he has saved like on a hard drive that he's gotten before, or he'll sometimes have some stuff that's like actually on YouTube. But like I said, it's all written in Thai. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's probably pretty easy to find if you actually can write in Thai. And then, and our assistant coach will be mostly in charge of individual players and their tendencies and things like that. And so he'll kind of go through a list of, he'll write kind of the starting 11 and maybe one or two players that tend to start or tend to come off the bench or in a couple positions. And then he'll just kind of go through, okay, player number whatever. And this is kind of what he does, is what he likes to do. And then after that, so he'll do that first, and then after that, our head coach will kind of go into some video, obviously give you a bit of a visual of what the certain players' tendencies are, and then obviously after to go with that afterwards will be kind of, okay, this is kind of how we can punish them and also how we can neutralize them from a defensive standpoint. So it's pretty available information.
Yeah, sounds pretty in depth. How does it compare to over here? Is it similar to how scouting is done over here, or is it different?
The language.
No, I mean, other than language varies. I mean, aside from that, it's pretty much the same. Like I said, it just more comes down to that's this coach's style versus maybe another coach has a different style or whatever. But much, I mean, it's very, very similar, and it's nice to just be like, wow, like there's some things that just don't change, and there's a lot of things that are very universal when it comes to football in general, and so you learn that more and more. Even though I'm on the other side of the planet, there's still very much a lot of similar things.
Yeah. And talking to you, it seems like it's still very professional as well over there.
Definitely.
Fascinating. Yeah. All right, so Chris, it seems like you've had a great time there, or it seems like you're certainly enjoying your time there and learning lots. Looking at the standings, however, it seems like that's probably not as enjoyable, dare I say. Yeah, you're 15th in the standings now. The team hasn't scored a goal in the past 3 games. The last one was by yourself, which is good. Well done, mate. And we saw that one because you posted it on Twitter, because otherwise we wouldn't have found it. So it's been a little bit frustrating, dare I say. What do you hope for? Tell us, how do you keep your morale up in situations like that?
Yeah, that's been for me probably one of the biggest kind of challenges. Also, is I think obviously it's based on kind of the situation, and it was I didn't know a ton of where I was coming into when I first came here. It was kind of like when Chumbury said they wanted to send me on loan and everything, it was okay. Yeah, we've got a club in second division and we can send you out there. And I spoke to some of the guys on Chumbury about the whole situation. They were like, no, look, honestly, they call it T2 pretty much. It's kind of the, Thai League 2. And so like, look, there are some very good teams in T2 and the level's not bad at all. And especially because this year they had 5 teams, like last year they had 5 teams relegated from T1 to T2 because they actually wanted to shrink the league a bit and make it less games, because they have an FA Cup and a League Cup also, like England.
Okay.
And so it's a ton of matches. And so they were saying a bit of an issue was they had the Thai players would go to the national team and they'd just be exhausted and burnt out. And so that was kind of one of the federation solutions, was to make the Thai league a bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so sense. In that, you dropped probably two more quality teams that normally wouldn't be dropped were unfortunate to be dropped into T2 because of this fact. Yeah, and so it's obviously made a bit of a divide in T2, and then you have, like I said, a team like Bangkok Glass that is undefeated in the first leg and probably should be in first division, but
were
they're
they
on their
one
way
of those
to bouncing
teams
right
that
back.
dropped down?
Yeah, they were one of the ones that dropped, and they were a bit higher up, and they were right there, and so it was from a club standpoint, obviously they're not thrilled about it, but is what it is now, and
for sure
they're doing their part definitely to get back. But yeah, so after I got here and started speaking with people, I found out that this team had just been promoted from the 3rd division.
Mm.
Yeah,
that's right.
So,
yes.
Yeah, and so it was always going to be a bit of a different scenario, and the real objective was always going to be, okay, just stay in second division.
Right.
And yeah, and so it's like I said, it was just more like, hey, this is a team in second division, and it's somewhere to play in the meantime and be able to still be okay, because things happened so late that, this was all happening end of February, beginning of March, and it was a point where I mean, transfer window's closed for the most part internationally. There's only about 3 countries in the world I could really go to, and it was like possibly Korea, Sweden, and the United States were like the only real options. And then the thing was like most teams in Korea, because obviously being a foreign player in Korea and Sweden, it's like most teams get their foreign players pretty early.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was very closed up. And obviously coming back to the States, even it was like, MLS has already started pretty much and they have their teams, and USL, same kind of thing. They're about to start that week. Even trying to go back and everything would have been very difficult from a roster standpoint and also like financially. And that's the other thing is, most teams have used their budget because they're a week out of season. So they've already planned and done their preseason and had their teams and everything. So
right.
Back, it would have been pretty difficult. So the thing was, it was essentially, okay, this was the best of a bad scenario. And so it was, it's a team and I can get games and still be playing and stuff. And that's all right. And it's been okay and been able to get games, and it's a cool group of guys and everything. But yeah, that being said, obviously it's a very different challenge, and there's a lot of I'm being asked to do, and it took a bit of an adjustment because they want me to do much different things than it's been asked of me before. Where it was like before, obviously in Phoenix, you look at the last couple of years, it was really like, okay, hold up the ball when the ball's in trouble and then just lay it off. And then aside from that, it's like, get in the box.
Yeah, right.
Just try and finish, It's like, it's get out of the way and get out of the way and let my wingers do their thing and my midfielders do their things, and then just kind of, be kind of an outlet, and then aside from that, get on the end of things.
Right.
And so now it's turned into much more of like a generating games and creative kind of position and having to do a lot more. And so it's become a drop a bit deeper or drop into a winger. Like I've played some matches as a winger as well.
Wow.
Just to kind of help a little bit. And there's a couple matches where, we were able to do well, and I was able to like play as like a right or a left winger and just literally like get the ball from the outside back and just start going, creating things and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's like I said, it's different, it's more like creating things, and they want me to really like run at guys and dribble at guys a lot more, which is, not something I was doing a ton of in Phoenix.
Right. Yeah.
And so, like when you had your moments in your 1v1, but the amount of times I'm one-on-one as a number 9, is not a lot. It's mostly when I'm getting the ball, it's either I'm 1v2 and kind of setting the ball and drawing players to allow other guys to be 1v1 or something like that. It's just a different roles being asked. And so it was a bit of a challenge at first and a bit of an adjustment. And so now it's like we kind of went on a string of got a couple results and was kind of playing more that winger position and sometimes as a 9 and kind of swap back and forth. And then afterwards we played some teams that are just way higher up on the table, and they're just honestly the way they play is just fantastic. And even then, the last 2 matches we've lost in the 85th minute. So it's like we've held on, done well, and then just given up a set piece or given up something, just like small lapses in concentration.
Those are the ones that hurt the worst sometimes. As when you're there at 3 minutes left and you think you're going to at least get a point out of it, and then those are the ones that are tough. I think the next day to look back on sometimes.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It definitely is. It's just one of those things. Like basically, my big kind of approach to it has just been like control what you can, and if there's a game where it's like, hey, what could I have done more, and that kind of thing, and how can I help the team more, and that's kind of really what's had to become the focus, and it's like, hey, things are going to happen where the reality is like this club is going to need a bit more changes to like and things like that, and so there's always going to be an adjustment, jumping up to a higher level and higher division, and especially when you're doing that the same year that you had extra teams drop down from first division. Like that's a very, very high bar and very big adjustment.
Yeah.
Sure. So our new coach he came in about midway through the season. We got a new coach about midway through this first leg.
Okay.
And so he's been here for a while now and kind of established and figured out a team. But obviously that kind of adds to the fact that getting results has kind of been a mixed bag because, he comes into a new team and has to figure out what players he likes and get everyone to adjust to what he's doing and that kind of thing.
You would have been quite familiar with that situation last season.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was a bit different, but Yeah, I definitely like him as a coach, and he's very good, and he's done things very well, and he's wanted to change things and do things differently and in the right way, I think. And so it's yeah, now he's come out and spoken about now that transfer window is coming up. It's the same here in Thailand. It'll be around July.
All right.
And so he said he's going to want to bring in some more players, and obviously my contract ends June 30th here on loan. And then after that, like I said, we'll get into that a little bit later. But basically, he's looking to change about a few Thai players and, a couple foreigners and replace a couple foreigners as well. And so hopefully that combination will help him kind of rebuild and be able to do a bit better in the second leg than he did in the first, and kind of overall improve the squad to his style and what he wants. So,
Chris, something just struck me as you were talking there. I mean, that was fascinating and all, but Thailand itself, right, as you said, it's dry and wet. So they seem to play the season across both those seasons. That seems a remarkable, challenge to overcome in itself, because you go from a very dry heat to a very, very humid heat there in the tropics. How do you compensate? How do you train for that?
Well, it's always humid, first of all.
Fair enough. All right, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's never. I don't think it's gone below 60% humidity since I've been here.
All right.
That's terrible.
Yeah, the rain is a welcome thing, because then you don't have the sun beating down on you in the humidity. And it's actually started to transition these last couple of weeks, where it's slowly getting a bit cloudier on days and things like that. And we've started having some rain here and there. And honestly, those days that it rains and it's kind of cloudy, it's nice, because you walk out and you're like, okay, it's the same temperature, but it doesn't feel 10 degrees hotter than it actually is or anything. It's actually okay and normal, and you don't have because when you have the sun, it means you have that sun beating down on you. And I don't need to tell you that in Phoenix, but
yeah, right. No, that's what I was going to say. What are you complaining about, mate? You're used to that part.
Yeah. So picture that with humidity.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the dry season's like. It's not nearly as hot. I mean, it's say when Fahrenheit, it's 90s, 100s. But when it comes to rainy, it drops down to 85, 90 and stuff, but also you don't have the sun. So it's basically a lot better when it's cloudy and stuff. That being said, obviously when it's pouring rain and everything, that's a real different dynamic, because, you start having I had the power go out in my apartment for about an hour because there was so much rain that it messed up some kind of power circuits. There's a lightning storm and stuff. It was pretty crazy.
Wonderful.
So yeah, I think it's just most, you can tell though, most pitches are actually kind of meant to deal with that rain, and it's a lot thicker grass out here for the same reason. It's meant to kind of hold up against the rain and everything. So that's a pretty it actually, for me, I think most pitches that we played, when it's been dry, it's wow, I would have actually rather had this wet beforehand and kind of gotten some water on it. So that way the ball could actually move faster.
Otherwise, it's playing on a bale of hay.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be nice to have a little lay on after you've been crunched.
So now you mentioned that you had played some other positions at the winger this year. Is that the first time you played that? Do you think
no, I've done it before. I played it a bit in Mexico. I played it when I was in Orange County also.
Right.
And yeah, for the most part, my first year when it was Arizona United, I was mostly playing number 9 under Frank. And then when Patrice first came in, I had my knee injury. And obviously, Patrice and Didier both had their first match together. And that was the day before that match, I had gotten surgery on my knee. It was hey, Patrice, nice to meet you. I have to get surgery tomorrow. So that was my first conversation with Patrice. How do you like that? So, but yeah, so, as I was starting to come back and everything, there was kind of Patrice had mentioned to me about after he was not sure and he was thinking about maybe bringing in another striker, another winger or something. And then when I started coming back, he spoke to me and he's honestly, at first, obviously you're an unknown quantity. He's but afterwards I started seeing you training and seeing you play. And if we played a friendly match against Sporting AZ, I think, or something. And that was my first match back. And he's yeah, after I saw that match, I thought, wow, you're actually the one we need to kind of help with things up top. And so
good.
My first game back was against San Antonio when we played at home, and I actually played as a right winger in that game.
Really?
And that was me on the right and then Didier playing up top. And then afterwards Patrice kind of Yeah. Afterwards, Patrice kind of tinkered it and then decided to kind of basically put me as a 9 and Dids as a 10.
Right.
And that's kind of, and then it was kind of like, obviously we can both kind of play both roles, and it ends up being a 4-4-1-1, and we're kind of swapping back and forth, and that kind of ended up being the kind of magic formula. And from then we kind of went on a run of games and that kind of thing, and we won like 8-9 in a row afterwards, and did really well. And obviously playoffs happened, and got knocked out in Pens, and then I think even last year it was kind of the same thing. And obviously he was gone and everything, but when he was here and when he came back, and then when we started playoffs, it was like the same thing. Rick kind of adopted that same thing when it came to playoffs, where it was like he was playing mostly just under me, but there'd be times just flow of the game, I'd drop in or he'd drop in or whatever. And so that's kind of how it worked. And obviously it was pretty successful last year, so but yeah, so I've done winger before. But yeah, it's obviously always going to be a bit of an adjustment, a slight mindset change. So it took like a game or so to kind of figure it out and figure out, timing of everything and where I need to move and stuff. But luckily I've been there before, so it wasn't super crazy.
Aaron, did you want to move on to that big question that we've been building up to?
Yeah, I think so. I think I do, Chris. You knew this is coming. All right. So I know you had a bit of a chat to Phil over Twitter about your loan with Ayutthaya. It's up at the end of the month, as you mentioned.
Yes.
There is the summer transfer window coming up in North America. Well, as you said, down there in Southeast Asia as well. It seems like you haven't made up your mind what you want to do, but if there was a next step in your career, and we're not translating this into Thai, so this should be okay to say.
No. Everyone's kind of aware of what's going on anyways, so...
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the $1 million question, Yeah, to be honest, it's started. I've started to have a couple talks with my agent. There's been like a couple of people contacting him, and it's kind of it's just been started over this last kind of week or so, where I've really been kind of started putting feelers out there, so to speak. And that kind of thing, and also been contacted by a couple of people, and so I really honestly don't know yet. I don't know where I'm going to end up yet. I know as soon as my contract's done with Ayutthaya, like the most likely thing that's going to happen, the interesting thing that kind of throws a variable into it is Chumbri's gotten a new coach.
Okay.
And so I don't know if I'll have to report back, or if they're just going to say, look, they've brought in another foreign player, and then loan me out. And so my guess is I don't see the coach really wanting to shake things up that much to where bring me back and see if maybe he wants to register me and drop someone else. But it is a possibility, and so there is a small chance that I could just go back to Chambéry. I don't, like I said, it's a pretty small chance, but it can happen. Never rule out. Crazier things have happened in this game. So that is a small chance. Obviously, the first thing is to see kind of where the club is at with me and my status and what they really want to do, and if that coach truly wants to exercise that of, hey, call me back after my loan deal is done and have me train with them. If that's not the case, then it would just be kind of a just sort out pretty much my release and sort out kind of a bit of a payout, and just kind of something where everyone's happy and what, no worries, things have happened, that's that, and just both go on our way, and that seems like the more likely case. And that being said, because of that, obviously it's like, okay, gotta start covering bases and looking around. And so for me, it's it's kind of finding what's best for what's next, what makes sense for me. So I've, like I said, it's very early in what I've really actually spoken to, and I'm just starting to kind of sign mandates, which are basically permissions to speak on my behalf in certain countries or certain leagues. And so my agent has begun to do that. So there's been interest with one country, Saudi Arabia, and one country is Egypt also. Aside from Korea was an option before I actually came here to Thailand, and just because of the way timetables were, the clubs in Korea the one club that was very interested in me in Korea didn't have a coach signed yet, and Chumbury actually had sent a written offer at that point and kind of needed an answer soon. And so that was kind of what swayed a bit of the decision to go to Thailand, was I can't blow off a for sure thing for a maybe or a most likely.
Sure.
So so yeah, obviously see if, you know, there's still some sort of interest in Korea, whether it's that club or something else.
That's a good league to go into over there.
Yeah, that would be one thing. And then aside from that, obviously there's, you know, there's always the possibilities of going back into the USL.
Mm-hmm.
Just at least, you know, if nothing really comes up or if I don't feel anything's what I want at that point, then it's like, hey, go back to USL for end of the season, finish out the season somewhere, and then kind of go from there and decide what I want to do next. So yeah, you know, it's a very broad, I don't have an feeling of what I'm gonna do next yet. Wish I could tell you more, but yeah, it's literally talks have just started happening, so it's not even anything close to being definite. And the first thing, like I said, you know, is really, you know, in the next couple of weeks it'll be a combination of figuring out what Chumbury wants and then kind of getting more of an option and idea of what my options will be, and then kind of making the decision for what's best to move on.
Right. Chris, what I was going to say was, and I'm sure Phil does, and I'm sure our listeners do, we really appreciate that candid answer right there. We know that there's a lot of things you can't say and a lot of things are up in the air, but that was very special. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's just,
thank you.
Yeah, that's, you know, pretty much like I don't even know names of clubs yet, to be honest. That's the thing. Like, it's more like I'm like beginning to kind of give permission for agents to speak with my agent and agents to be able to negotiate on my behalf within a country. And so like that's all even I know at this point.
But it's good times ahead though, surely. I mean,
yeah,
it seems like that there's definite opportunities pretty much across the globe for you, and that's great. That's to be applauded.
Yeah, so fortunately, yeah, there are some options, and luckily I'll have a job after this, which is nice.
That's good. Because we want to have an interview with you wherever you go.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of kind of, you know, like I said, making the best in the meantime here and just seeing out my contract. And then after that, you know, in these next couple of weeks, I'll really have much more definite answers of kind of what happens and where I'll be moving to next and what's going to go on with Chumbury. Like these next couple of weeks are pretty important for basically deciding the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of where it is, and yeah, so it's kind of like I said, it's early in talks, and so I'll have more of an answer in probably a week before my loan deal really finishes up. I'll most likely have an idea of everything and where I'm going to be and what's going to be happening. So
right on. Look forward to see what happens there, man.
Yeah, we'll be in contact with you, and you know, wherever you're playing at, we're going to be following you and keeping up with you and keeping up to date everybody back here in Phoenix with where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now the last thing that we had for you tonight, we really appreciate you taking your time with us, and we don't want to hold you up here too much longer. But the last thing we just kind of wanted to ask you about is, after 6 months in Thailand, other than, you know, of course, the company of friends and family and things like that, what's the one thing that you miss the most from the United States?
Oh,
is it us?
Man.
Is it us?
Yeah. Oh man, no, it's it's funny, there's like certain subtle things I would say. I think just the language barrier is a tough thing.
Yeah.
In general, because where I'm at is a pretty small city. When you're in Bangkok, you mostly get people, you'll at least get one or two people in whatever restaurant or whatever you're at that speak English. And so you're able to really get by and get things kind of sorted, whatever it is. Say it's, you know, you need maintenance on your car, you need this, you need that, whatever it is. And that's the difference is here in Ayutthaya, it's like not a lot of people speak English, you know, it's very hit and miss with where you go. And so because of that, you have to, like I said, that's forced me to learn a lot more language, which has been a good thing, you know, and that's definitely been helpful. But that being said, it's not super easy because, you know, a lot of things where it's like things where I could normally just go out, right? I could be driving and be like, oh yeah, there's a car wash here or something like that, you know. It's like I'm sorry, I can't read Thai, and so I can't read a car wash sign. So I have to kind of like figure out, is there a car wash here or is there not, or like, just for one example, things like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so,
you need your car repaired or your refrigerator breaks down, how do you find the refrigerator repairman in the phone book if it's really
exactly. And so and so that's a tough thing. Just like being able to find things, like just anything like that I want, is because the other thing is too, in Bangkok, it's pretty westernized as far as like they're very good about like, you can find most things on Google Maps and like kind of look things up and be able to find it. But here, and you say, it's smaller shops and kind of mom and pop places and things like that. And so it's like, they're not exactly posting on Google Maps where they're at. It's just like, people know to come here, or we put up our sign and kind of word of mouth and things like that. And so, if you speak and read the language, that's fine. But if not, that's an issue. So that for me was one kind of big challenge and one thing, I miss in general, because I mean, when I've lived in Mexico, and that's fine because I speak Spanish, and so it's the same kind of thing where I can just go and ask around or something. And so this is a very different dynamic. Aside from that, I would say just where I'm at in Ayutthaya too, it's like obviously there's not it's mostly Thai, and so it's mostly Thai food available. And so I think the diversity of it, just in America, the fact that you can live in any city and have any kind of food available to you.
Right.
Things like that, and just variety. And so I think that's a big thing too, is just being able to have like a variety of options and those kind of things.
Hey, I've got a question for you, Chris, just while you're on the food and the cuisine there. How good is the pad Thai in Thailand?
It's fantastic.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. And they do some great, even though it's like scorching hot over here, you still get noodles because they're delicious. They do like these great like udon noodles and stuff that are just
so good.
Very, very good too. But you have to definitely like spicy food if you come to Thailand, because most of the food is like spicy and done with like chilies and things like that in it. And so it's like, if you can't do spicy food, be careful what you're ordering in Thailand.
Go to Australia instead. It's just 6 hours away. You'll be fine.
Sounds like I'd fit right in. So.
I think aside from that, the other one thing I do definitely miss, and it's a bit of a combination of language barrier and cultural things, is just like being able to socialize more with teammates. So obviously the language barrier is one thing, and I get along with teammates, but you can't exactly have super profound conversations with many guys on the team. And that plus here, like culturally in Thailand is a bit more like traditional and old school when it comes to like marriages and relationships, and they get married much younger, and the women like stay at home and like cook and clean and that kind of thing. And so for the most part, like, a lot of the guys on the team are like married, like already have kids and stuff. And so, they very much just hang out with their families and do that kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so for that same reason, obviously, you're not really like socializing a ton outside of practice with them. And so that's, I would say, another thing too, where it's like, I really can only hang out with like a couple guys on the team, and that's about it. And everyone else just kind of goes and does their own thing afterwards and doesn't really do a lot of group stuff. And so that is a very different dynamic that like, I haven't experienced in a long time.
I bet. Yeah. That's fascinating. I imagine, I've spent some time in some foreign lands. Cameroon is probably the one that I had the biggest cultural shock in, but I only spent 10 days there, man. I don't know how I would do 6 months. So.
I mean, it's just, you just gotta kind of submerge yourself in it and try and like really pick up on what's going on. And it's a lot of, for me, like I enjoy like kind of observing and noticing these kind of things and noticing subtle differences anyways. And so for me, it's like, okay, this is kind of what they do here, and this is what they do here. And you kind of learn to, be kind of a person that's like, okay, how can I fit myself into like, being respectful towards the culture and being myself at the same time,
Right.
And so that I think is like an important thing too, I think that's helped like with getting along with a lot of guys too, is a lot of them realize like, they notice like I'm making an effort with the language. They notice like if they see like you're making an effort with language, you're making an effort with customs, you're like trying to do certain things instead of just like kind of, just can't be bothered with it. No, I'm just here to play and that's it and whatever, and the fact that I think like doing all those things, you really, I guess it's not very common for foreign players to do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was one thing where they were like, yeah, I'll even surprise like some of the staff and the physios and coaches and different things when like they'll say certain things and I'll just like, I'll understand or I'll like respond to certain things or say certain things in Thai and they'll just be like, oh,
that's
like
great.
They'll be like very surprised.
And that's a great message, I think, too. You get out what you put into it. That's
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me that was a big thing. Is I really was like, okay, I really want to at least be able to get by day to day with the language and those kind of things. And it's cool because from 2 months ago to now, the amount of stuff I'm able to understand in team talks is like night and day.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And so that definitely helps a lot. He would have like one of our physios speaks English very well, and so our coach like made an effort also to like make sure that he would like translate for the foreign guys and things like that, and kind of help us. And so it's been, like I said, it's been very good. But obviously, being able to understand like things that he's saying and start picking up more and more of what's going on and what he's doing. Like mostly, obviously, it's in football terms because that's a lot easier to understand because I know what's going on. So, but it's kind of cool to just be able to like start understanding more and more of what's going on. It's funny. One of my Brazilian teammates he lived here for a year in 2017, and then he went and played, I forget where, like Morocco and somewhere else, and now he's back here. And I give him tons of shtick because it's like, I'm like, man, you lived here already for a year, and I already know more Thai than you understand more. How does that even happen?
But you said that in English, right?
Yeah. He wouldn't understand if I said it in Thai. That's the problem.
or Portuguese, for that matter. But anyway.
Yeah. I could do Portuguese all right.
Yeah,
I understand everything he says.
Hey, Chris, it's been great having a chat to you, man. We look forward to whatever happens to you in your footballing career. We'll be following you around the world, should that happen. We
can start a series around the world with Chris.
Yeah, do the Where in the World is Chris Cortez?
There you go.
San Diego.
Exactly. I think that might have been the name of our last episode, wasn't it?
Actually, it was.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and we just learned so much tonight, and I can't wait to see where you go next, and we'll keep posting your goals on Twitter and look forward to get more of those too.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to catch up and kind of give everyone a little insight into it all and kind of what's been going on. And yeah, as soon as I know more and kind of really figured out my next move, I'll definitely be able to announce everything and kind of go from there and see what's next.
Fantastic.
All the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck with the rest of the season, and good luck with your next stop, too.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for coming on.